Hi, everyone, and welcome. I'd like to introduce our next workshop, which is the PledgeMusic workshop. And please welcome our presenter, Dominic Pandiscia.
Thank you. So I'm Dominic Pandiscia. I'm the CEO of PledgeMusic, and I brought some of the team today because we have a pretty interesting journey to talk about, which is the connection between the artist and the fan. And I'll let the guys introduce themselves here from starting with Scott Graves.
I'm one of the acquisitions team.
I'm Lee Lust, also on the acquisitions team.
Mike Fordham, also part of the acquisitions team.
Adam Lee Cash, not acquisitions team, the head of marketing and campaign management.
So what we really wanted to talk about today is A, how the marketplace is changing, and B, what does it really mean for our business and the opportunity it creates for artists and fans. And when you look at how the marketplace is changing, obviously we're moving into a more broad, squarely digital economy. Streaming is obviously, finally started to create some buoyancy in record company P&Ls, which is great. You've got, artists having the ability to reach more fans and find more fans and engage them in a way they could never do before, which is obviously, again, an incredible opportunity. And I think as we see the marketplace changing, it creates a real opportunity for what happens between that transition from a discovery moment to engagement to really creating and harvesting a career fan for an artist. And I think it's easier to find fans in this world we live in now, but by the same token, if you look at streaming charts, if you look at the album charts, if you look at singles charts, fans are also in and out of repertoire faster than they've ever been before. You hear an artist like Frank Ocean, where it's the biggest moment in the music business, and it's a big moment for literally 5 days, and then it's on to the next. That's how quickly the fan moves, and that creates an opportunity because you can reach a lot of people really quickly. It also creates a huge challenge in that how do you retain that fan? How do you keep them engaged? How do you build them into a career fan that will be with you as an artist from the bedroom phase to the small club to theater, arena, and beyond. So that's really the journey we want to talk about today. PledgeMusic is really built as a platform that we believe really addresses a lot of these concerns and opportunities. We live in a world where we can harvest data in a way that's never been able to be done before. We share all that data with our clients, which we'll talk about in a minute. But we also really help to facilitate and deepen that connection between the fan and the artist and everyone else in that value chain, including the management company, the booking agent, the record label, et cetera. Everyone wins in the the value proposition that we believe is there. And when you look at the sanctity of that connection between an artist and a fan, it's funny to watch what happens. I'm sure we all have hundreds of artists that we're all very happy listening to casually by pressing play on our phones, and I have hundreds of myself. But everyone, we believe, even if you're a casual music fan, you probably have 3. And if you're a real hardcore music fan, you might have 25 artists that you really, really love. And just clicking play on your phone is not an enriching enough experience for you. So that's an important opportunity that we believe needs to be addressed, is how do we make sure that real fan, as they transition from casual to a more passionate fan, how do we address that fan? And then also, if you look at it through the lens of an artist, I'm a former musician. Many of the folks on the stage, play instruments. We work with a lot of musicians in the business. It's frustrating to me in my entire career, this has been a passion of mine, that an artist, for those of us in the music business, many of you here, work with a number of artists, I'm sure, and we get to make a career off of the efforts that they put forth, and we help in them marketing, promoting their records. But these artists have literally one career. It's everything to them. So when you look at the artists that are when they release repertoire, they put their heart and soul into creating this body of work, and it's presented for the most part in a format the size of a screen of a phone with someone clicking play with a piece of artwork the size of a postage stamp. That's a total injustice. That's fine for the masses. That's the Walmart. That's the kind of Amazon, find it and consume just musically what's being presented. But it's really a crime when you have a real artist that can present a creative vision that gets compromised in the world we live in. Imagine Sgt. Pepper without the amazing gatefold artwork and absorbing yourself in that experience. Imagine just being a click to play and trying to understand what's happening on that album cover on a screen this big. It's not very rewarding. So again, PledgeMusic is a place where we also try and really address that need from the artist perspective to really let them be artists and let them convey three-dimensionally who and what they are. So when you look at this ecosystem that exists under PledgeMusic to address this opportunity, we're a family of 3 companies. We have a company called Set.fm, which allows an artist to create content, capture live recording from their bedroom up through an arena level. We have a company called Noise Trade, which allows the artist or label to trade data for, trade content for CRM. So we harvest more fans, and artists like the Lumineers and the Civil Wars really credit Noise Trade as helping to build their social media following before they really broke. In fact, so much so that Lumineers gave us through Dual Tone a 24-hour exclusive stream on their last album through Noise Trade as a thank you for helping to help build that, their CRM following. Before they really broke. And then we have PledgeMusic, which is really the marketplace, and it really is a marketplace, much like, I liken it to an Amazon purely for passionate music fans, that the fan can really immerse themselves in understanding who that artist is, and the artist can put amazing experiences and products across, across fans that they can't do anyplace else to really solidify that relationship long-term with that fan. And really philosophically, you can see from this page here, it's really a 3-pronged concept where you've got the ability to create content and create engagement. You've got the ability to market that content and then sell that content, no matter what it is, directly to the fans. So it's pretty unique. It's not just a straight D2C environment. It's not just a straight data environment. It's a combination of a lot of different things that really drive the PledgeMusic platform and value to artists and fans. So it all starts with the artist, and I wanted to bring some of the folks from our Artist and Label Relations team here today to talk specifically about the artist journey, because here you have a couple of examples of artists that were using the PledgeMusic platform to build their careers, to be their own little CEOs in addition to create their art. And they've now evolved into having relationships with labels and are growing their exposure in a way that is going to only hopefully make them bigger and bigger artists with more visibility. But it really all started with PledgeMusic. So I'll hand it off to the Artist and Labor Relation guys to talk a bit about this.
Cool. If you think, sorry. I mean, PledgeMusic is obsessed with messing with the timeline to an extent. You think about it, a finished record, gets presented, and there is a timeline where that record is going to be given a chance. PledgeMusic takes that timeline and extends it this way. We think the best campaigns at times are ones where the door has just opened into the studio and the fan can go on that journey with the artist. We find that to be fascinating. When you open that window, you're giving the artist the ability to sell more records. You are letting the fan experience things that they never thought they would ever get to experience. I can't speak for everyone in this room, but don't we take that stuff for granted? We got to see videos be made. We got to see or hear songs being mixed. We got to see logos being designed, our album artwork being put together. The fan never got that. Dominic uses a great term with his favorite artist, Ryan Adams, how he was underserved as a fan. Well, all fans are pretty much underserved because we only get to see the finished product. What we do is open that window up and the journey takes place. More sales happen, more exposure happens, and I think we give the artist a better shot. So we're definitely obsessed by that.
Yeah, and I think too, with the prime example that I'd love to talk about here is the Secret Sisters, who had started out and came and approached us, and at the time we're independent artists, and said, hey, we're going to be stepping in the studio very, very shortly with Brandy Carlisle producing the record. However, we have a fair amount of costs ultimately that are associated to make a record with someone of her stature. So let's talk about what we can do and kind of work together on this. So this was well over a year ago. So with maybe about 2 weeks' time, we called together a really great campaign and launched it. And as Scott mentioned, ultimately fans were brought along in the process of really seeing and hearing this record come to life. It simply just wasn't a 30-second video that was put up on Facebook and and a bunch of wonderful comments, but ultimately a lot more in depth ultimately. So you're seeing minutes long rehearsal footage. It could be interviews with Brandy or some of the sisters themselves, and it's a much more in-depth look at the album making process, which I think fans, of which they have a very hardcore following, found really enlightening. And ultimately, by allowing them to kind of talk about that in a way that they felt comfortable, that really drove sales. It wasn't just like pledge, pledge, pledge. It's like, hey, here's what the artist is doing. Let them speak for themselves, and ultimately, ergo, the sales will come thereafter. So it was a really great story in that the campaign was so successful that ultimately it led them to securing a record deal with New West Records. And they just put out the record fairly recently. So as Scott alluded to before, it's not just a 2-month time period, but it was well over a year ultimately this campaign was open, and that just extends the marketing push and allows a lot more for discovery to take place. It's fairly common, in fact, where we see a lot of savvy labels and A&R folks ultimately saying, hey, who's new, who's good on the platform that we should be looking to sign or distribute.
And to both Dominic and Mike's point of, super significant artists and projects like Frank Ocean's record or Lemonade coming out and then disappearing from the conversation within 6 weeks, where previously, before the short attention span society that we live in, those would have dominated the conversation for maybe 18 months. This allows artists of a much lesser stature, and I don't mean that disrespectfully, but that is Beyonce and Frank Ocean. After all, it allows you to extend the time that your most ardent fans are engaged with you throughout the process, and more importantly, talking to their other friends, either old school word of mouth or virally sharing, what's going on and enticing other people who may have missed the fact that this campaign is taking place. Scott and I met with this lady last year at A2IM, and she's a huge fan of Nika Costa. Scott had brought in a campaign of Nika Costa's, and the woman told us how excited she was for the campaign. Well, funnily enough, we met her again this year, and she told us that she had recently gotten the handwritten lyric sheet that she had purchased, and she was so excited about it. She took a picture of it, posted it on Instagram. Other Nika Costa fans started chatting back to her via Instagram saying, where did you get this? How did you get this? This is really cool. I would love to have this as well. So she, by posting that, turned into sort of a viral marketing street team person for Nika Costa without having been asked or paid to do so. But more importantly for her, as well as providing kind of that service inadvertently for her favorite artist, Nika Costa actually chimed in on Instagram and talked back to her about the posting she had made. So not only for the fan is it exciting because now they get to tell people about something that's really exciting that may entice other people to come to the party, but now she had a direct communique/repartee with one of her favorite artists, which I don't know many platforms that really allow that kind of true artist-to-fan connection.
So Lee, talk about, if you would, the Nicole Atkins story, because like the Secret Sisters, which Mike conveyed, there's a story here where Nicole really built a following completely on her own, working with PledgeMusic, and now has graduated, if you will, into a much more robust label relationship. So it's that handoff and her being able to really make a career just by working with PledgeMusic, and now her career is really going to grow.
Yeah, I mean, the Nicole campaign was a very unique and interesting one. She had used Pledge before for a previous record and had done really well, so she wanted to do it again. This time, she had a label on board last time, so it was a strict pre-sale. This time, there wasn't a label out of the gate, so they wanted to use the crowdfunding side of the platform to facilitate the making of this record that she had been dying to make. She had been signed to Columbia by Rick Rubin years ago, had been on 30 Tigers, so she'd been through the label machinations, knew what it was like, didn't want to wait around for a label to come with some kind of advance to allow her to begin this creative process. So she turned to the fans. The fans were really excited, wound up providing a significant amount of financing. And mind you, it's not just a donation-based kind of thing. You're actually buying tangible goods and products, albeit far off in the distance, that aren't even made yet. So she amassed that money, made the record, and then they turned off the campaign for a minute while they were figuring out were they going to get a label, and they wanted to reestablish the campaign as a strict pre-sale later. And then this relatively new label called Single Lock Records, which is founded by one of the members of Alabama Shakes and John Paul White from the aforementioned Civil Wars. They got so excited about the record, they signed her, and now we're running the campaign in conjunction with them as a strict pre-sale. So there's even new people coming to the party. There's people who participated in the crowdfunding campaign coming to the party because there's new and different items that weren't there in the previous iteration of this campaign. And Nicole actually made this video completely on her own. We didn't ask for this, which was almost like an advertisement for Pledge, where she was thanking the fans, saying that because of you, I have this amazing opportunity to make this record that's been burning inside of me. I got that out. I got to open for Garth Brooks at South by Southwest, which I never dreamed of happening. And now, because of all the stuff that we, meaning her and the fans, have done together, I just got signed to this amazing, really cool, and really credible label, and I'm excited to take this new journey with them. So the campaign served numerous different purposes for an artist who had, seen both sides of the equation, where she had been both major label, independent label, and now completely doing it herself from the outset. But it really showed Single Lock, the fact that fans are still really interested in what Nicole has to offer. It's not like she's, damaged goods because she had been signed and was not signed any longer. So it was very exciting for her and her management team to be able to take this journey with us and the fans and then flip it over into an amazing opportunity for her to get her music out far and wide once the record comes out in, I think, a month or so.
And I think that's really the really key inflection point here is you have two artists that were able to build careers for themselves without being reliant on any label per se.
Both of whom had previously been with the Secret Sisters on Republic and Nicole on Columbia. Both had been through, the major label system. So that's another interesting touch point about both of them.
Right, so they were able to really continue their careers, build their careers, and then have all the understanding of who that core fan is that's been along for the ride with them. They had all the data. Those fans will be able to engage them as artists in a way they couldn't do across any other platform. So then when you get Single Lock coming into the conversation or New West Records, now not only do they have understanding of who the artist is creatively, that's what labels are great at, they also have an incredible wealth of understanding of who that core fan is, as opposed to trying to find them out there or just expecting that everyone on Facebook is actually engaged. That may not be the case. They actually know fans have really engaged these artists they can go back to promote the next phase of their career. So it's a real building block story here from artist to label.
And another thing that both of those campaigns provided, which a lot of people don't realize doing something like this with us can provide, is now there's a story for both of these labels to tell. X amount of people and X amount of revenue was generated by what we did. So when they go to press, when they go to radio or playlisters at the streaming services, or when they go to do their marketing kind of thing, if there's some people who might be naysayers, now they have real actionable data to show these people to say, you might want to reconsider not giving my artists the opportunity, because look what they've done with this platform that is essentially a kind of micro/niche platform. And now we, being New West and Single Lock, are trying to open this up wide with your help, Mr. Gatekeeper or Ms. Gatekeeper at press, radio, streaming. If you give us a chance, we think we can grow this audience that these artists have built upon in this platform by 10x, 20x.
And if you apply that to real-time marketing, we can even identify by zip code. So say there's a radio station that we can go to any DMA and say, okay, we know that there are 382 fans within a 50-mile radius of Boise, Idaho, that have transacted for either one of these artists. That's a story. We can go back to those fans and create a local activation to help create some momentum. Maybe we get a local radio station on board. Then we go and we push for research. So we can really help, truly from, to use a cliche, from farm to table, really help not only work with artists, but work with labels to break these artists out of our platform.
And just a wee tad more. What I love about what we do at Pledge Music is the humanity side of it. You know what I mean? Like we're talking, yeah, sure, we have put artists in direct relationship with their fans. Essentially, when an artist makes a record, they're giving their diary to their fans. I mean, being a former A&R guy, I always felt like that was, that's the most amazing moment. And to see the humanity that takes place between artist and fan, especially if you watch this, this update from Nicole Atkins, which Lee was like, you gotta watch this. I mean, they are, to hear an artist talk about their fans in the way that our platform provides is, I don't know. I don't mean to be all hunky-dory about it, but it's a very, very special thing. I think that's why we do this. So I don't know. I just thought I should bring that up.
So how do we actually facilitate this? We've talked about the idea of what happens here, but how does it get facilitated? How does that fan get served and transition from casual to a real committed career fan? And how does the artist get served? So really it's about how we work creatively, almost like an artist would create a record, we create a campaign in partnership with the artist. And I'll hand it off to Adam Leakash, who's our head of marketing, oversees campaign management and marketing. He's from Mexican Summer, really great independent label. And talk a bit, Adam, about how we actually start to go through the process of creating a great experience for the artist and the fan.
Yeah, sure. So, really it's a case-by-case basis. Every single campaign is handcrafted with the help of the acquisitions team, who is beginning the conversation with the artist, the label, the manager, then hand it off to an individual campaign manager who's going to see that campaign through to fulfillment, manufacturing, the end of the line. And what we do, in addition to obviously the music component, is we give the artist the opportunity to showcase more than just the music. What's the story beyond the record, the 12 tracks on the album? It could be they could be an artist themselves. They could want to they'll hand design artwork and they'll sign it and they'll put that up, and it gives them the ability to showcase different sides of their creativity. It's a little difficult to see on this slide here, but we'll work with them. We have an artist solutions team who will work in tandem with the artist team on procurement, finding manufacturers for any of the these sort of ideas that the artist may have. But beyond just T-shirts and hats and lyrics and things, like we'll go if it's a heritage artist, we'll go what do you have in the back of your closet? What sort of memorabilia do you have that it's just sitting collecting dust that really fans would die to have, say a signed guitar, for instance, something that's been played and been sitting there for years.
Yeah, and I think the point here, this is a very different idea than straight D2C, where an artist flicks on their ongoing store and they have their music catalog and they have a pre-order for the new record, and here's my 5 T-shirts and my vinyl bag, and maybe there's one really unique item. That's an ongoing run rate business. We do that too. We have about 40 stores live right now, like Passenger and Bring Me the Horizon. We do straight D2C too. But the idea that Adam's really talking about, which is an extension of what the Artist and Labor Relations team does, is it's a creative platform. We want artists to be creative, again, to really convey their vision three-dimensionally to that fan, help them understand who they are. Do a lithograph for every song on the record. Don't rely on just that postage stamp image on a phone to convey what it is you want to present for your art. So, we know there are roughly 12, 15 things that every artist should do because fans love certain items, and we encourage every artist to do them. Beyond that, it's very much the creative dialogue with the label, manager, artist themselves to say, okay, how do you want to present yourself? Do you want to talk to people? Do you not want to talk to people? Do you like photography? Do you like to draw? Do you like to write? And we really get an understanding of